They told you success was a mountain. They told you to measure the peak, to stare at the distance still left to climb. And somewhere along the way you forgot to look down. You forgot to see the cliffs you already scaled, the storms you already survived, the nights you thought would bury you but instead became proof of your strength. You are not empty. You are not behind. You are standing on the ashes of battles you already won. Every scar, every bruise, every sleepless night is not a weight. It is a medal. And if you could only pause for a moment, not to count how far you still must go, but to honor how far you have already come, you would feel it. The unshakable truth that you are stronger than the distance, greater than the climb, and destined to finish what you started. They told you success was a mountain. They told you to measure the peak, to stare at the distance still left to climb. And somewhere along the way you forgot to look down. You forgot to see the cliffs you already scaled, the storms you already survived, the nights you thought would bury you but instead became proof of your strength. You are not empty. You are not behind. You are standing on the ashes of battles you already won. Every scar, every bruise, every sleepless night is not a weight. It is a medal. And if you could only pause for a moment, not to count how far you still must go, but to honor how far you have already come, you would feel it. The unshakable truth that you are stronger than the distance, greater than the climb, and destined to finish what you started. Because the truth is this: life has already tested you. It has already tried to break you, and yet you are still here, breathing, standing, pushing forward when so many others gave up. You were not spared from hardship, you were forged in it. Every setback was a furnace, every disappointment a hammer, every tear a drop of steel poured into the making of your spirit. You were not broken, you were built. And when you realize this, when you stop judging yourself only by the gap between where you are and where you want to be, you awaken a power that cannot be taught in books or lectures. It is the power of perspective, the ability to see yourself not as a failure, but as a survivor. Not as someone incomplete, but as someone already extraordinary, simply unfolding into more. This is the shift that separates those who quit from those who conquer. The average person looks only at the miles ahead and grows weary. The extraordinary soul looks back, sees the distance already covered, and grows unstoppable. Because they know, if I made it through that, then I can make it through this. Think of Edison, who failed 10,000 times before the light bulb finally burned. If he had measured his worth by the failures alone, he would have surrendered. But he chose to measure by endurance, by resilience, by the fact that with every misstep, he had already traveled farther than the man who never began. Think of Lincoln, defeated in election after election. A man who buried children, endured heartbreak, and carried failure like a shadow, and yet became one of history's most unshakable leaders. Why? Because he never counted himself out. He honored the road behind him, and that gave him the courage to keep walking the road ahead. And you, yes, you are made of the same fire. You have lived through storms that others cannot imagine. You have risen after falls that could have been permanent. You have walked through nights so dark that the fact you're still breathing is a victory in itself. And if you could stop for just one heartbeat and see yourself clearly, you would see what I see. A soul already victorious, already capable, already climbing. But here is the danger. The world will always try to blind you with comparison. It will show you the success of others, the speed of others, the highlight reels of people who seem to be farther ahead. And if you measure yourself by them, you will always feel behind. But if you measure yourself by your own path, your own scars, your own persistence, you will realize you are already miles ahead of the person you used to be. That is the only comparison that matters. Understand this. Every master was once a beginner who refused to quit. Henry Ford was once a farm boy with no money, no connections, no guarantees. Just an idea that the ordinary man deserved to drive what only the wealthy could afford. Walt Disney was once a boy fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity, who slept on floors and ate scraps before creating worlds that outlived him. Carnegie was once a poor immigrant working 12-hour days in a factory before he built an empire of steel. None of them began as giants. They began as wanderers, as dreamers, as people who chose to measure themselves not by how far was left, but by how far they had already traveled. And so must you. Do not say, I am not there yet. Say instead, I am not who I was. Do not curse the distance, bless the progress. For progress, no matter how small, is the oxygen of achievement. It is the proof that you are alive, that you are moving, that you are becoming. And when you honor it, you give yourself the strength to continue. Yes, the mountain is high. Yes, the road is long. But remember this, you have already walked farther than you once believed possible. And that is the evidence. That is the guarantee. That is the unshakable proof that you will go the rest of the way. Yes, the mountain is high. Yes, the road is long. But remember this, you have already walked farther than you once believed possible. And that is the evidence. That is the guarantee. That is the unshakable proof that you will go the rest of the way. For greatness does not come to those who stare endlessly at the horizon. It comes to those who master their state of mind, who command their belief, who live each day not as victims of circumstance but as creators of destiny. Understand this, mindset is not a word thrown around in books or seminars. It is the soil in which every seed of your future is planted. If the soil is poisoned with doubt, with fear, with self-pity, no seed can grow. But if the soil is nourished with faith, with vision, with the unshakable belief that all things are possible, then even the smallest seed can grow into a forest. Napoleon Hill wrote that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. These words are not poetry. They are law. They are the same law that governs gravity, the same law that commands fire to burn and water to flow. Your mind is not simply a mirror reflecting the world. It is the engine creating it. If you think in limitation, you live in limitation. If you think in expansion, you live in expansion. This is why the giants of history seemed almost irrational in their belief. Edison believed light could be captured when the world was content with darkness. Ford believed every man could own a car when others laughed at the impossibility. Disney believed in castles and kingdoms long before there was land to build them on. They were not dreamers, they were architects of thought. They understood that every creation is first born in the mind, and only then brought into the world by relentless action. So you must ask yourself, what do I allow my mind to conceive? Do I feed it only with memories of failure, with images of defeat, with whispers of doubt? Or do I plant within it the picture of victory, the image of